Do you want to be famous? Well, let's find out using tarot. Hello, my soul friends. My name is Emmarie, and today we are going to ask Spirit how you can be famous and what you need to do to achieve that. All you need to do to hear your message is pick one of these four piles to help you make that decision. I have put an image on each of these piles. Whichever one calls out to you, whichever one pulls at your intuition, that is your pile. If you need to, you can meditate on each of these piles by pausing the video. So let's go ahead and look at them up close. Pile 1 is a red panda. Pile 2 is a sheep. Pile 3 is a hedgehog. And pile 4 is a bird. So remember, you can pause the video if you need to, but once you have your pile in mind, all you need to do is scroll to that part of the video in the time bar or go to the description of this video and click the link to your chapter. Are you ready? Let's go ahead and get started. Hello, Pile 1, my red panda pile. Welcome to your reading. Let's go ahead and get started by pulling one card from the Sacred Destiny Oracle to see how your destiny is aligned with fame. So, Spirit, what does Pile 1 need to know about their destiny and fame? What do they need to know about destiny? Your card is forgiveness. So there's something about fame that is difficult for you to accept, something about your vision of fame that actually won't work out that way in reality. Let's figure out what that means. So we're going to pull 3 expansion cards from the Light Seers Tarot to figure out why forgiveness is necessary. Why is forgiveness necessary? Why is it so hard for you to become famous? Emotionally, it seems like. The first card is the Queen of Pentacles reversed. That's about being overwhelmed and having too many personal responsibilities. We have the Queen of Swords reversed, a little bit of emotional volatility, and the Judgment card. So it's still a good decision for you to be famous, but if you want to be famous in whatever specific area of life you're interested in, one thing you need to realize is that it's going to be a lot of work, and you're probably going to have to let go of one of your hobbies or one of your life goals. For example, a lot of famous actors and singers sometimes decide not to have a family, not because they don't think they would be a good parent, but because they think the lifestyle they pursue would not be a good fit for a child. And so you could have something similar involved. The Queen of Swords reversed shows that it's going to be a little bit hard for you to be famous. You may need to go into therapy at least once, or maybe even routinely to help you deal with things, parasocial relationships, people who want too much from you. But the Judgment card is upright, so something about being famous is the right decision for you, and you can be famous if you want to. So let's figure out more about that. How can you work your light from the Work Your Light Oracle to become famous? What is your method to fame? What is the strategy? What is your specific strategy your soul wants you to do? What are you in alignment with? We have no. Wait, postpone, pause, say no. So, right now is not the time for you to be famous. There's something you need to do in your life right now. And there's also the potential that when you start working towards fame, reputation, notoriety, you may be propositioned. For example, think of the Harvey Weinstein cases where a lot of actresses and some actors were forced to do things that they did not want to do in order to secure roles. And if they said no, then they would get blacklisted from the industry. It seems like whatever you're doing, whatever industry you're going in, there seems to be a similar problem, if not of that nature, some sort of problem. And so saying no to being famous, at least for the next few years, will help you to avoid that problem until they have their own Me Too movement or something similar that will help have the right necessary protections to protect you and other people when it comes to rising up in that industry. So let's figure out your road to fame. What will be required of you to become famous? Let's pull one card from the Enchanted Map Oracle. What is your road to fame? What is your road to fame? We have magic prayer. So it's not just about doing all the right things, there is a spiritual element. You need to be big on manifestation. And if you look into a lot of the younger celebrities, but this is probably true for some older celebrities, they became famous because they manifested it. They really worked on it. And there's a spiritual element to this, but there's also a psychological element. And in countries outside the United States, things like law of attraction is super important because it helps rewrite the way you perceive the world. So you'll actually pursue opportunities. In America, that effect is still there, but it takes on a more spiritual element. So you may see people doing spells, but wherever you live, what you need to do is really manifest or use magic to really help you along. So let's pull 6 cards for some more information about the road to fame for you, what you need to know. What is your road to fame? How do you become famous specifically? What is your path forward? The first card is the 8 of Wands reversed. Things going a little bit slowly or not falling in places like as you would like. The 7 of Swords reversed, not being cold-hearted, strategic in your approach. The Knight of Wands reversed, not being so exploratory. The Sun, very creative. The King of Pentacles being a master. And the Empress, growing something inside of you. So when I am looking at these cards, what I am seeing is that for you to be famous, one, you have to accept it's not going to happen 6 months from now. It's not going to happen probably 2 years from now. The timeline is a little bit longer than you would expect, probably 5 to 10 years. And that is because you need to avoid the negative environment that currently exists, but also you need to improve your skills. You want to get famous at the right time. You don't want to get famous with your first work and then all your other work just kind of be forgotten. One person I think of a lot is Lin-Manuel Miranda, who wrote the really famous musical Hamilton, and he's made some other things. He's contributed to movies, but the only thing people really know about him is Hamilton, and it's an amazing musical. But he's probably going to be a lot better in the future, and that one work early in his career is going to be what he's known for. And that's not what you're supposed to do. Your work is going to reach its pinnacle later in life, you're going to see steady growth. And what that means is you aren't going to be in this situation where you have an early success and then you do other work and it's so amazing, but it's kind of forgotten because people are really focused on that first particular success. So that's what you're going to be avoiding in addition to the negative environment. But during that time, you are building your skills and there's some sort of creative element. So even if you were trying to become famous in business or science or anything like that, you are going to have a novel approach. You're going to do things in a way nobody has done before, a very creative application. And the thing about creativity is that you need to have experience, you need to understand your industry in different ways because you can't really be creative if you only know a very narrow path. You need to be able to pull in inspiration from multiple sources in order to combine things in new ways. So definitely improve your skills, and that is how you are going to become famous. That's really important for you to know. You don't want early success. Now, the last oracle card we are going to pull today is from the Believe in Your Own Magic oracle deck. How can you believe in yourself? What do you need to do in order to have the fame that you deserve? What do you need to know about your fame? How can you believe in yourself? Your card is Feather. Think first before you judge. So one of the reasons why your first card was Forgiveness and your last card is Feather is that you're very hard on yourself. You take things way too seriously. You really learn to doubt yourself. So that's part of the reason why your fame is being delayed, to make sure that you psychologically build yourself up, that you have a manifestation mindset, that you're optimistic, that you're skilled, so you're not just blindly optimistic. You have reasonable belief in your skills and everyone around you would affirm that because you're skilled. But one of the things you need to forgive are your own self-doubts. You need to forgive all the times that you have been hard to yourself already and you're going to be hard on yourself in the future. How many artists, for example, have we known quit or give up because they think that they're not very good, but they have so many fans and it's really heartbreaking to see. Sometimes they harm themselves or they just ruin their lives and it's really, really unfortunate. And I think you're at risk of that to some degree. It may not be self-harm in the most fatal sense, but it could be you giving up your path to fame, even though you have the potential to be famous and you just decide to get an ordinary day job, you just give up. But you shouldn't give up. You can build yourself up. And so what you need to do is really think about why you would be logically successful as a famous person. So let's pull 4 cards about that to end the reading with. Logically, why are you going to be a successful famous person? What do you need to know about that? What do you need to know about being famous? What do you need to know? The 4 of Swords reversed, waking up to your potential. The Tower, a sudden reckoning. The Knight of Cups, receiving inspiration or someone who is going to help you. And then the High Priestess reverse. It's not intuitive. So what I am seeing with these cards, in order for you to have the right mindset and to make sure that you don't give up on yourself, is that 1, you need to recognize that there's something about you that's different, something that makes you distinct and worthy of becoming famous. Even if you don't have the raw skills yet, you have the potential, you have the talent. you can refine it in a way that most other people never could. And there's going to be an event in your future, that's the Tower card, that's going to really radically redefine your life. And sometimes this card can be negative, but in your case, I believe it's going to be a singular moment where you realize that becoming famous isn't just about being a celebrity and being loved. It's what you can do with your fame. There are so many writers who often become poets or something like that, and nobody reads their work. And so, because nobody reads their work because they're not famous, people miss out on a lot of really amazing poetic lines. There have been a few famous poets, Mary Oliver, Billy Collins, I think Ruby Kaur, she's like a more contemporary Insta poet. But the point is, with fame, you can influence people. With whatever you're being famous, you can make a difference. And there's going to be someone along the way who helps you. This Knight of Cups, they're going to inspire you. They're going to believe in you. It could be a romantic partner, someone who is going to make you feel cherished so you don't build those parasocial relationships. And instead, you think about how you can serve your fans rather than being a slave to your fans. But the High Priestess reversed is very interesting. It's not intuitive. So much of your spread is about logic and rationality. Some people don't believe that becoming famous is anything other than luck, but some people were obviously going to become famous. There was something about them that was extraordinary, and there's something extraordinary about you. So after this reading today, what I want you to consider is, what is the one thing about you that is really different? And you may not think it's a good thing right now. You may think it is unusual. For example, for me, I am someone who is very stoic. I am unusually stoic, not just for women, because women tend to be a little less stoic, but even compared to men, I have been more stoic than 99 men out of 100 in a room. It's just my personality trait. And that trait has helped me withstand an unexpected disability. It has made me less emotional. So, whatever you have, there may be some cons to it, but that stoicism has really helped me in amazing ways to apply myself. And you have something too. It may not be a specific technical skill, it could be a character trait, but it is something you have and it is significant. And it is logically unusual and different compared to other people. And I want you to cling to that. It is something that is going to help you become famous. So, pile one, that is what I have for you today. I'm so excited to tell you that you can be famous if you want to. You're going to change the world, but you really have to believe in yourself. You have to accept that some part of you is different. In the description of this video, there is a link to book a private tarot reading with me if you would like that. There are also links to all the decks that I used today, but otherwise, pile one. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos. You can also let me know in the comments, what is the one character trait that you believe is different about you, that is significant, that is special, because I would like to cheer you on with that trait. Anyway, pile one, I can't wait to see you again. Hello, pile two, my sheep pile, and welcome to your tarot reading. Let's go ahead and get started by pulling one card from the Sacred Destiny Oracle to figure out how your destiny is aligned with becoming famous. How will you become famous if you will become famous? Let's get to the bottom of that question. Spirit, will pile two become famous? What is their destiny? We have going forward. So there's something that you are in progress doing right now related to fame. So it's not something new, it's not something surprising. Something you're doing now is related to your ability to become famous. So let's pull some details on that. Let's pull 3 cards from the Muse Tarot. How are they going forward, Spirit? What are they progressing on? The first card is the 2 of Emotions, some sort of emotional pairing with someone else. Justice card, something that is positive, something that could be related to legal matters. It could also be marriage. And then the third card is the Sun. So the Sun, especially with the 2 of Emotions and Justice, which makes me think of marriage or equality relationships, tells me that actually a child or someone that you mentor is going to be famous. Now, that doesn't mean you won't be famous, but you are going to influence someone so much in the next generation that they're going to know your name because of who you influenced. So let's find out more about that. Let's figure out how you're going to work that light into your mentee's fame. How is that related? How are you working your light into this world? What are you doing? We have the ever unfolding rose cracked open. It's happening for you, not to you. So I think you are probably a little bit upset to hear that someone you teach or someone you give birth to or influence is going to be more famous than you, but actually that is how you create a movement. That is how you create a continuation or legacy of whatever you're doing. Because sometimes people create something or they become famous for something, and then they're the only ones that ever do it. It is a tradition or creation or discovery that it's just never repeated. But the best people who become famous because they create an entire movement. And let's figure out more about that. What sort of movement are you creating? What movement are you creating? What are you creating that's going to change the world? What's different about what you do? We have Temperance. It's something that combines opposites. We have the Star. It's something very fated. You were fated to do this. And when comparing that with the 2 of Emotions and me feeling like you're going to marry someone or have a relationship with someone and then you have a kid, even if you don't have a kid, you could have an influential legacy that's created with a partner, romantic or otherwise, and you were meant to meet them. They are your karmic relationship. And although I don't think this is the case, sometimes when you have a rivalry with someone, when someone is your rival, that also creates a lot of fuel for creativity or anything that people become famous for because people are constantly competing with each other. But you can see how a living person becomes your muse or influences you, inspires you to make something important. And I do think there's some sort of creative element to your fame because of the Sun card here. We have the Emperor. Very, very in control, very mastery oriented. So you're definitely a teacher. Even if you have a child that becomes very famous, you are teaching them something. So you don't just have to become skilled at what you do, you have to master that. You have to impart the full breadth of knowledge of that particular thing that you're going to become famous for and your students going to become famous for, because you can't really do something different until you know everything or almost everything there is to know about your field. You need to have all the basics completely mastered. So that is really, really important. So a really strong teacher energy here, actually. So let's pull a card to figure out your road to fame. How are you moving towards fame? Spirit, how is pile 2 moving towards their fame? What are they doing? We have solitude. Okay, so this is really interesting. Even though you may end up having a child or a student or influence or rivalry, some part of what you're doing requires an individual career. So yes, you are going to be famous partly because of who you influence and who you teach and the movement you create, but you are going to have your own fame. You're going to have your own body of work or something specific about you. You're not just teaching people, you actually have something that people go back to years later or generations later, maybe centuries later, to say, look at what this person did. Look how amazing they are. And in order for you to do that, you need to work in solitude, or you need to work away from other people and their influence and be noticed for who you individually are. So let's find out more about that. What is this period of solitude like? What do you need to know about this solitude? Spirit, how is pile 2 using solitude? We have the muse of voices. So you are going to be very influential when it comes to communication. So think writing, speaking, talking, anything with words or thoughts. If you aren't specifically writing something, you're coming up with pretty cool ideas. The next card is the Three of Voices. This could be the broken heart card. It could also be a sign of clarity when combined with other voices energy, other swords energy here. And so you're very much a clear thinker. You're very intelligent. You may even be very educated, but you are using your clever mind to create something significant and distinguished. And that's part of the reason why you are working in solitude, why you are pursuing mastery, why you're going to be famous on your own, because you're going to create something significant, a significant body of work, or masterpiece, I should say, because it's probably creative, that is just really kind of amazing. Think bestseller, think award winner, think something that changes things in a masterful way. The next card is the Death card, the Change card. So what I think you really need to do in order to get your fame is to think about, what are you able to be the master of intellectually? And this could be many things. For me, it could be tarot if I wanted to pursue that to intellectual mastery. It could be, I'm just saying things that I'm interested in, Appalachia. It could be like romantic books, all those sort of things. And when you wanted to do something different in a field like that, you have to really immerse yourself in that field. So if someone wanted to create a different kind of romance story, what they would do is read all of that romance, all that romance. Someone who comes to mind is Jane Austen. She was a realist writer, and she was writing during a time when there were a lot of these really gothic romances, novels where heroines are doing like these really dramatic things, but she wrote more realistic stories that still had that romantic flair, and that's what made her different. She knew what what sort of movement she was writing in, and then she changed it a little bit. She exaggerated it a little bit. She did something different. And because of that, we really know her name. She like changed everything. She influenced so much. And that's what you're going to be doing. You're going to be changing your industry by creating something really masterful, like Pride and Prejudice, or think Charles Darwin on the origin of, I think, the species, about evolution. Something where you change things, like everything changes because of your work. And that's really, really special. And then people follow what you change and then build on that. You're the start of originality, is what I want to say. Things become original because you change something. Now, the last thing I want to do today is figure out more how you can believe in yourself on the road to fame. We're going to pull one card from the Believe in Your Own Magic Oracle deck for how you can believe in your ability to become famous. How can you become famous? We have Sundress, Do It For You. So in a lot of my readings and in a lot of my research for why people do things, people often do things for other people. It's really important to think about how you're influencing the world, but you're probably having some sort of social relationship elsewhere in life, but people also need to do things just for themselves. And for you to be motivated in order to be famous, you can't do it for the fans. You can't do it for your students. You have to do it based off of your own interests. Going back to Jane Austen and Pride and Prejudice, one of the reasons why she really enjoyed writing is that she liked looking at the details of how people acted in her real life. And even though she didn't have this life of travel and she was really, really contained in like this small rural lifestyle, she really was very perceptive of the people around her and wrote these amazing characters in her novels. And she was very motivated by that, by getting to the bottom of how people really are and then reflecting that in her fiction. That's something she really cared about. And having some sort of personal interest in whatever you're doing is really important. You're not going to become famous unless you find the thing that you are so motivated to learn about, so motivated to master, so motivated to create a movement for, that you just keep doing it because you are constantly in a flow state. That is what you are looking for. So let's figure out how you can get into that flow state. Let's pull 3 final cards. How can you get into a flow state? What do you need to do? We have the Awakening reversed. So you're already able to do this, to really start pursuing it. You've made some progress. You are on the road, so to speak. 4 of Voices. Again, this is kind of like a sleep card, a dream card. And then we have the 6 of Voices, Transition. So what I am seeing with these cards is that you're not currently awake, you're in a dream state, but you are going to wake up. And when you wake up, you are going to transition into something. So you're probably not going to be famous right away, and that's something you have to accept. It's going to be many years. You need to master what you do. I often think about a lot of writers, especially writers or creatives with ADHD. A lot of people who procrastinate, they're not actually not working when they're not procrastinating. When these people do things last minute and they do it well, not they do it poorly, they do it well. Those type of people are actually thinking about the project all the time in their free time. They're thinking of different ways to approach that project. And then when they're nearing the deadline or when they're finally ready to act, they have already gone through so many different ideas in their mind until they found one that worked. And that's what you need to do. You need to experiment. You need to be comfortable with sitting on your ideas before you act on them. As an example, let's say you wanted to be an author. Many people who pick this pile are going to want to be authors or do something with writing just because of all the communication energy. And when you write, you don't want to just write the first idea that comes to mind and then spend 20 years on that draft trying to make it perfect. You would be the kind of person that would have probably a file on your computer of hundreds of ideas, and you keep going through those ideas until you find the idea that works, and then you go through different versions of that idea until you find the version of that idea that is amazing, and then you pursue it, and then you push it. And it might be 4 or 5 years, maybe 10 years before you even get to the specific idea that you're going to work on. But once you do have that idea, that is when you have like this outpouring of a massive amount of work. So a lot of thinking time, a lot of experimenting time before you actually work on a final product. And then I think when you actually work on that final product, it's going to happen very quickly. So that's something to be aware. You have to really love what you do. And in order for you to really love what you do, you need to churn through a lot of thoughts and ideas until you find the one that really excites you. You are not the type of person who has 200 ideas that they want to write from, and then they just decide to write their books alphabetically by however they sorted their ideas. No, no, no. You are going to constantly think about ideas until you find the idea that makes you super, super excited. And that is how you become famous. You trust your intuition, you trust your motivation. And then when you are motivated, that is when you turn on your productivity and you just have this outpouring of, of, of output. And that's really, really interesting. So be comfortable with the idea that you're not going to be famous right away because you have a lot of work to do, a lot of brainstorming, all of that. But otherwise, pile two, I'm glad to say that you can become famous if you want to. You just need to be comfortable with it not happening right away. You need to be comfortable with creating a movement. So there's quite a lot of responsibility there. And I'm really excited for you for that. If you would like to book a private reading with me, that is available. The link is in the description, as well as links to all the tarot decks we used today. But otherwise, pile two, I am sending you so many blessings. I can't wait to see what you bring into this world. Let me know in the comments what is one hobby or interest you have. Maybe it's not going to be the hobby or interest you pursue when it comes to fame, but I think it will really help you to start brainstorming possibilities and claiming that energy by commenting in this video. So many blessings. I can't wait to see you again. Be sure to like and subscribe for more. I'm sending you my best wishes. Hello, pile three, my hedgehog pile. Welcome to your tarot reading. Let's go ahead and get started by figuring out how your destiny is aligned with fame. How are you related to fame? What do you need to know about becoming famous? Will you become famous? Spirit, what is pile three's destiny? How are they destined to be famous? We have the transformation card. So for you to be famous, you need to transform in a pretty dramatic way. We see a butterfly here, and a butterfly transforms, has a metamorphosis from a caterpillar to a butterfly, and that's a very big change. So let's figure out what sort of change is required. We are going to pull 3 cards from the Tattoo Tarot. What is this transformation? What metamorphosis do you need to go through? What is required of you to become famous? Because who you are now needs to change in a powerful way. So we have the 6 of Coins reversed. You may need to invest in yourself or spend some money. We have the Knight of Wands. You need to pursue a path of passion. And then we have the Star reversed, something ill-fated. So what this is telling me is that fame isn't actually indicated in your astrological natal chart, or not in the way that you would like. And that doesn't mean you can't be famous, but you're going to have to approach it in a different way. For example, my sun sign is Virgo in the 12th house. And when you have your sun in the 12th house, that means your life is pretty private, pretty restricted. And so if I wanted to be famous, I don't really want to be famous. I have to be a content creator because of my disability. Then I would do something like a faceless YouTube channel. And so that is one way that I can pursue, I guess you could say, fame in a way that is in alignment with who I am, but still transforming. So what you need to do is really look at your fate, your destiny, specifically your astrological natal chart if you have one. If you do not, you can use your numerology or your tarot birth cards and really look at that and ask yourself, how am I not able to be famous because of those traits? And how could I completely turn that up on its head? And this requires you to pursue a passion. In my natal chart, for example, my 8th house is very occultic, very connected to my 10th house, also connected to my 12th house through a grand earth trine. It's really interesting. And I'm really interested in occult spiritual things, so that makes sense. But the 6 of Coins reversed, and I know you don't want to hear this. Everybody wants to hear that they're going to become famous either by chance or they don't have to invest a lot of money. You are going to have to invest a lot of money. And that doesn't mean that you should allow yourself to be scammed or swindled or go broke, but you need to be comfortable with the fact that you need to change something about yourself financially or materially. You may need to change your look. I don't encourage plastic surgery, but a lot of actors and singers who don't do that still have to do some sort of beauty treatment or something to make them look a certain way. And all those sort of things about changing yourself, changing your look, changing the way you live, changing where you live may be necessary in order for you to be famous. If you wanted to be an actor and you lived in a small town in Iowa, it's not going to happen because there aren't a lot of plays that you could try out for. There are very few movies that you could try out for. You could maybe become a YouTuber creating skits, but again, you need to have some help to have people to have that you are acting with in those skits or in those indie movies, which again would require you to move away from home. So there's something that you have to change about your life, and you're going to have to spend money to achieve it. So let's now look at how you can work your light into your life to become famous. What sort of energy approach do you need to have in order to shine your light into fame? Spirit, how are they going to become famous? What do they need to do? How do they apply their energy? This card fell out, which is kind of unusual for me. We have the Inner Temple Devotion. Tune into the portal of your heart. So this goes back to, yes, you need to change. Yes, you are defying your fate in some way, but you still need to actually trust your intuition. You need to trust your interest. You aren't going so far against your fate that you are transforming into a person that is alien from who you are. You are just kind of transforming into the alternate universe version of yourself. So it's still you, but there's just something different about you. So let's figure out how this different person exists. Let's pull 3 cards on that. How do you tap into the alternate version of yourself? How do you do this? What do you need to do to become famous? What is your altar? And it goes back to this butterfly with the 2 different colored wings. So you are yourself, but you're a different version of yourself. So the first card is the 5 of Swords reverse. You have to accept some sort of loss of self. You have to let something go. The next card is the 6 of Cups. But something in your past is positive. Something needs to be reborn in a different way. And then we have the 4 of Coins. And then you need to stabilize it. You need to make it a tradition. I'm going to use an example here, a hypothetical example. Imagine someone wanted to be famous. They wanted to be a really famous painter. But in order for them to become a really famous painter, they would have to get over the idea of themselves working independently. Like they're either going to need to commission work from really wealthy people to make a living, or they're going to have to learn marketing and networking in order to put their paintings into galleries or become popular online. And so what does that mean? One, they have to accept the shy person of themselves has to die. They have to let that go. They have to let that reserved part go. That doesn't mean they have to spend every part of their life socializing, but they can't accept that their life can exist without it. They have to socialize. The 6 of Cups could be them thinking of when they were a child or when they were younger and they felt really comfortable doing one-on-one conversations. And so maybe they do network, but they don't network by going to these really busy parties or talking to thousands of people every month. They just figure out, hey, there is a gallery owner in Portland, Oregon that I really want to connect with, who I want to influence to carry my paintings. So I'm going to reach out to them. I'm going to figure out a way that we can connect, and then I'm going to build a one-to-one relationship with them so they will be incentivized to pick up my paintings. So they use that one-on-one joy that they like when they're really communicating with someone to network. So the part of them that is reserved and shy is dying, but the part of them that likes intimate communication is reborn in a new way. And then the 4 of Coins is about making this a stable personality trait. So that's what you need to do. You need to let some part of yourself die, and then the new part of yourself, the alternate universe version of yourself, is reborn, but it existed in some part in your past. You're just remanifesting it in a different version, and then you are making it a real part of your personality. It's not a fake part of your personality. It becomes something that you are comfortable with, that you lean on, and that you identify with. So it's not just something you do occasionally, it is something you identify with and you step into. So let's figure out your path towards fame. What is the narrative of your journey to fame? Let's pull 1 card from the Enchanted Map Oracle deck. How do you become famous? We have the Rescue card. So you're either being helped or you're going to help someone else. Let's figure out the context there. Let's pull 3 cards to learn more. What is this rescue? Is pile 3 being rescued, or are they rescuing someone else? What is this rescue? What is this salvation? And speaking of salvation, in the Six of Cups card, there is a cross. And in Christianity, the cross represents salvation of a sinner by Jesus Christ. And then this rescue card makes me think that there is some sort of salvation here. So let's figure out what that is. We have the Five of Cups reversed. You are accepting something that was very, very difficult that you still have, but you're accepting it. The High Priestess reverse card, it's not intuitive. And then we have the Queen of Wands. So the Queen in a card for me usually represents the person I'm reading for. And in this case, you are saving yourself or you're saving someone else. And in particular, you are recognizing something difficult about your life, something difficult about your resources, and you're taking that difficult acceptance and making use of it. But it's not intuitive. It's not something that you can really perceive yourself. So here's the way it is. You do rescue yourself, but you need somebody to point this out. So there's something about your life that would help you become famous, that will help you transform, but you don't realize that is a possibility. And the way people usually figure this out is they get a life coach, sometimes a tarot reader, a therapist, a friend. They don't have to spend money all the time. Sometimes they go through shadow work. There are a lot of ways they could get another perspective. But what this self-personal development does is it lets them look at themselves, look at their life from the outside, and then logically perceive that difference or that character trait in a powerful way. So let's go back to this example of this person who wants to be a painter, but they started out shy and reserved. What they may not have realized until they did the work is that even though they're shy and reserved, they're really good at one-on-one conversations. So maybe when they're talking to a friend, their friend tells them, you know, you're really shy and you're really scared to meet new people, but once you do meet people, once you are comfortable with them, it's like I can tell you everything about my life, that I'm really comfortable around you, that I feel really safe. And then that person will be able to say, it may be difficult for me to meet someone the first time, but once I start talking to them, once I break the ice, I am actually able to build a really powerful, complex, and deep relationship. And so that's what you really need to do in order to rescue yourself and become famous. You need to figure out that character trait or that resource in your life that you aren't realizing you have. For example, someone may not realize that they actually have the ability to pay their mortgage, right? They don't know that they have the ability to pay their mortgage because they assume that a particular skill they have or the clutter in their house, let's use clutter. Maybe they don't realize that a hobby they had 10 years ago, all those collectibles they have, they could sell online for a lot of money, and then that could help them pay their mortgage. It's like they have that resource just sitting in their house that they could use. And so in that sense, there is some sort of resource you have, either a personality trait or something tangible in your life, but you don't know that it's there. And for you to find out it's there, you need to do the work, and that work is talking to a friend or family member who can tell you what you're good at, shadow work that could help you uncover repressed parts of yourself, life coaching, tarot, stuff like that, therapy, a whole bunch of things that could help you learn more about yourself from an outside perspective. And I would recommend starting from free before you spend money. So asking a friend or family member, if you have a journal that you've been keeping, sometimes you can go reread some old journal entries and figure out things that way. You could do a shadow work guide or some sort of self-help book. But then if you're still struggling, that is when you move on to life coaching. And then if it's really serious, you can move on to therapy or occupational therapy, which I think is dealing with career and those sort of things. But let's figure out how you can believe in yourself. We're going to pull one card from the Believe in Your Own Magic Oracle deck to figure out how you can believe in yourself on the road to fame. What do you need to do to believe in yourself? What is necessary? We have the Shark card. Swim away from this situation. So there's something really difficult about your life, and I think this is what is clouding your judgment, which is making it difficult for you to transform. It's making it difficult for you to perceive the character trait or resource that is available to you that could help you become famous. You are just locked in on this difficult situation. It could be a difficult job. It could be the wrong major or career you've pursued. It could be a difficult relationship. It could be trauma. It could be sickness. But because you are dealing with this, you can't look past it. So you need to figure out a way to escape that. So let's figure out how you can identify this difficult situation and then escape it somehow. Let's pull 3 cards on that. How can you swim away from this situation? What do you need to do? What is necessary? The first card is 8 of Wands. You need to slow your life down. You need to reduce the complexity. One of the reasons why people are depressed or their life is difficult is that it is too complex for them to make sense of it. So you need to simplify things. You need to minimalize. You need to declutter. The first thing you should probably do is clean your home or declutter your home. Just do that. Even if you're doing it pretty well already, do that to start with. And then the second thing you need to do is ask yourself where you are doing too much. Are you doing too many hobbies? Are you scrolling on TikTok too much? Do you have too many obligations? Do you need to let go? But overall, you need to make your life less complex. You need more free time, more leisure time, time that isn't already planned for. And if you already have that and your problem is that you're just scrolling too much on TikTok, then that is when you start adding hobbies and interests into your life. The next card is Strength Reversed. You probably aren't as healthy as you would like to be. It can be really difficult to become famous if you don't have a lot of physical strength. I recently heard that Taylor Swift, in order to prepare for her 3-hour-long concerts, she would walk on the treadmill for 3 hours. That's not something the average person should do. She had a special circumstance there. But the point was, in order to prepare for those concerts, she had to make sure her body was physically ready. I believe this is called functional fitness. You need to look at your life or the life you want to live and then ask yourself, what sort of physical activity or health practices would be necessary in order to pursue that lifestyle? A lot of spiritual people or tarot readers, for example, need to meditate. They need to spiritually cleanse their minds or pray in order to be in the right mindset to do the work. It doesn't have to be physical in that sense. Sometimes it is healthy habits like meditation, but you need to do some things to improve your health. If you haven't been to the doctor or the dentist in a while, you might want to go do that. Make sure everything is clear there or that you have the okay to exercise, but you need to get on top of this and you need to improve it in more ways than you realize. If you have the physical or the mental aspect covered, then you work on the other things. So you have to increase your personal fitness. The last card is the Tower, some sudden reckoning. Okay, one of the ways that you prevent terrible things from happening in your life is that you ask yourself what will go wrong, and then instead of freaking out, you ask yourself, how do you prevent that situation? So let's say you move into a two-story house and you have a child. How do you prevent your child from getting stuck in the house if there's a fire, especially if you're in an old house or you live in an area with a lot of fires? Well, what you would do is you would have an evacuation plan. You would teach that child how to safely evacuate the house. You might get them a fire ladder that they could put near their window so they could escape from the house. You might teach them how to use a fire extinguisher or a fire blanket. And then after you go through all of these situations, then you know that if something terrible happens, your child is not likely to die. One of the most common situations that people in the United States have to do this for are actually not fires, it is hurricanes and tornadoes. If you live in an area with tornadoes, you need to have an emergency radio on all the time. That way it can alert you if there is a tornado in your area, so that way you don't ignore your phone, and then you go to the storm shelter. And then if you are in Florida, for example, or the Gulf, you need to pay attention to the news during hurricane season, and then you need to have a plan for bunking down in your house if the storm isn't that serious, or if it is very serious, you need to have an evacuation plan. Because if you are in Florida, it can take 24 hours to leave the state or more in order to safely get away from the storm if you don't live in a safe area. These are things that these people have to figure out in order to protect their lives. And in your life, there is something about your situation to where it could get worse. I don't want to scare you, but I do want to tell you that in order to fix your life, you need to think about what could go wrong. And then instead of freaking out about it, you ask yourself, how do you fix that situation? Or how do you run away from that situation when it occurs? If you think that you are in an abusive relationship, for example, what is your escape plan? How are you going to get help? How are you going to find someone to get you out of that situation? All of these things. And then if it's not a very serious situation, let's say, for example, you overeat. Well, what is your plan to make sure that you don't get diabetes or some other serious health condition? It might be, okay, I need to make sure that I am not eating too many sweets. And instead of eating that ice cream every night, maybe I have a piece of fruit for dessert instead. Those sort of things, those sort of proactive ways to prevent disaster from striking. Because if you let this disaster strike, you won't be famous, right? You are going to be stuck with the aftermath of this disaster that you have to rebuild from. So pile 3, that is what I have for you today. You can be famous, but you need to change your life. Your life as it is now, you can't be famous if you keep living it. You need to change things. The good thing is, even though it sounds really difficult and a lot of work, if you change your life, you're going to not just be more productive and famous, you're going to escape something that's really negative. You're going to be happier and more fulfilled. You are going to be in a better situation because I think right now there's something that is really, really bothering you. And whatever is bothering you, it is going to cause other problems. So I really want you to address that. So reach out for help from someone. It could be a friend, it could be a family member, it could be a self-help book, and then escalate the help you need if it is necessary, depending on the problem. That way you can get a plan in place. And then once you get that in order, you are going to see your life change in a powerful way, and you are going to rise, you're going to ascend, you're going to transform. And I'm really happy to see that for you. So, pile 3, I am sending you so many blessings. I really believe in you. I know you can do this. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos, but I am sending many blessings your way. You've got this. You are going to really own and control your life and then rise because of it. Hello, pile 4, my bird pile. Welcome to your tarot reading. Let's go ahead and dive in by pulling one card from the Sacred Destiny Oracle to figure out how your destiny is actually aligned with becoming famous. What do you need to know there? Spirit, how is pile 4 in alignment with fame? How can they become famous? Your card is adventures. The word that comes to mind is, or the term is side quest. So when you go have fun, when you challenge yourself, when you take risk, you're going to find an opportunity to become famous. Maybe in a way that you never expected, and in a way that you couldn't really plan. So let's find out some more details there. We're going to pull 3 cards from the Mystic Mondays tarot deck. What sort of adventures do you need to go on to become famous? What adventures and side quests are in your future? What are your adventures? Your first card is the Eight of Wands, so things that happen very quickly. I almost think of athletics here, or anything that is fast-paced. The second card is Seven of Cups, so you have multiple options. Not everybody has multiple options and pathways to fame, but you do. And the third card is the Knight of Cups reversed. It has nothing to do with other people. It is nothing to do with love. It is specifically the adventures you go on yourself that lead you to fame. I think one thing that would be very much indicated here would be someone who is an influencer and travels around the world, or someone who does like adventure vacations and they break a record or they end up in the newspaper, something like that. Really fun challenges. These could also be things that aren't necessarily your career, so your fame could actually not be tied to your day job or your income at all. You could even end up on a reality TV show by these cards. So let's find out a little bit more. How can you work your light into becoming famous? What do you need to know? Let's pull one card from the Work Your Light Oracle deck. What energy do you need to bring into this equation? And by the way, if you don't want to be famous and you're just at this tarot reading for the fun of it, this is just a sign, hey, you have an option to become famous in whatever way you want, as long as it's related to an adventure. So your card here is Align Your Life. What is not aligned or needs to change? I think of self-development here, personal development. What is one character trait that you don't like or that you would want to change? When I was a teenager, there was this show, I think it was called Made on MTV, where teenagers would send in a videotape explaining to the producers what is one aspect of their life that they would like to have change, like losing weight, or if they would like to become popular, maybe they would like to become an athlete, those sort of things. And then the reality show would come and film them as they go through that process. So thinking of a specific project you want to accomplish by improving your life is one amazing way for you to become famous. So let's find out more there. How can you align your life and use that to become famous? And if you're creative and you wanted to align your life, imagine somebody who documents their journey to do something. So if they wanted to become a novelist, perhaps they would create a YouTube channel of how they achieve that along the way. That would be indicated here. But how should you be working your light and aligning your life? We have the Six of Swords reversed. So actually, it's not about going to other places. That is an example I use, but in your particular case, you don't have to travel in order to achieve this. It could be something of the mind. So it could be an adventure of the mind. So it could be someone who does something creative and documents that. That is confirmed here. The next one is the Hanged Woman reversed, not making a sacrifice. Don't do anything dangerous. I think this is a second confirmation that you should go on adventures, but actually, in your case, you don't have to risk your life visiting a volcano or anything like that, and then finding that you become famous because the volcano explodes when you were visiting the island and then you are in a documentary. That's not your story. Yours doesn't require you to be in pain in order to become famous. The third card is the Nine of Cups, making a wish, manifesting something you desire. So yes, what is an interest you have or something you want to change about yourself? That is how you become famous. And I do think documenting how you get there is a good way to go about it. It's not the only way. Let's figure out a little bit more by pulling one card from the Enchanted Map Oracle to figure out what is your path going to be like? What do you need to do to manifest your wish and your alignment? So let's pull one card there. What is the path towards fame for you? What does pile 4 need to know, Spirit? So we have Magic Stream. So it makes me think of, you know how when you get in water, there's this saying that the stream or the river you step into one day isn't the same river that you step in the next because the water is constantly moving. You have so many opportunities to become famous, and it's very project oriented. And you could start today, tomorrow, maybe you go viral on TikTok or YouTube or anything like that. So I do think whatever you do is very content focused, project focused, or something to where you become famous because you try something. Let's find out more. What about this magic stream? What about this magic stream? We have justice reverse, something that has wronged you. The Five of Wands reversed, which is about some sort of bad competition. I'm really feeling true crime here. And then we have the Five of Pentacles, being out in the cold. So I really think that you have a few options here. One option you can do, but it's not something you have to do, is again, those adventure vacations. But I wouldn't recommend doing anything that would risk your life. Like if you want to go visit South Korea and just enjoy the tourist destinations, that is more indicated than climbing a mountain and risking your life. You can also become a content creator. That is very much indicated by your spread, documenting anything you do. If you don't want to be a content creator, you could write a book or anything like that. But another thing that is really indicated here is focusing on things that bother you. When you want to make money in a capitalist economy, what you do, you have two options. You can either solve a problem that already exists, or you can create a problem that doesn't exist and market people to make them realize they need your product to solve a problem they didn't know they have. And for example, true crime. People want to feel safe, and so they would look up or read the newspaper to figure out what sort of crimes are in their local area. And some people would create documentaries, and now today, true crime podcasts or true crime TikToks where they would really make people look at true crime as entertainment, but they don't know it's entertainment. They are using true crime and marketing true crime as a way for people to feel safe, but it's really entertainment. I kind of don't like true crime, so I have a biased view, but you would be very good at true crime or anything involving the law or activism. You could be an activist. That's also something you could do. So let's pull one card from the Believe in Your Own Magic Oracle deck. What do you need to do to believe in yourself? Because I think one major problem in your spread that I'm picking up on is that you have multiple options to become famous. You have multiple abilities to become famous. You could choose today to work on something, become famous, and then move to something else and get famous in that way. Not everyone has that ability. You do. But one of the problems with this energy that I'm picking up on is that because you have so much potential, you're not going to be very focused. And because you're not going to be very focused, you're not going to be very committed. And that lack of commitment is going to translate into you feeling like you can't achieve anything because you are so frenzied, you're so uncertain about what to do that you just don't believe you can do anything at all. So let's figure out how to turn that around for you. How can we make you believe in yourself so you can pursue an interest? So let's figure that out. How can you believe in yourself? Spirit, what does pile 4 need to know to believe in themselves? What is important here? So we have Throne. Your potential is endless. That is a confirmation of what I just said, but in particular, Throne. So in order for someone to become famous, they need to have some level of narcissism. And one of the reasons why I don't mean like clinical narcissism where you have a mental illness. I mean, you need to be able to look at hate comments and just not be affected by them. And most people are not like that. They see a hate comment or even just a gently critical comment or even a positive comment, but the person misunderstood what you were trying to say or do, and people freak out and then they just give up. You need to make sure that you're not going to be like that. You need to really have a very high opinion of yourself. And this goes back to those teenagers who were on MTV and wanted to have that reality TV show come to their school and help them achieve a personal goal they had. You know, a lot of those kids come across as being losers or social outcasts, but the truth is, in order for them to even dare to be on that show, they have to be willing to embarrass themselves a little or be a little bit cringe, be willing to put themselves out there in a way most teenagers just simply wouldn't do. And you need to have that same energy too. You need to accept that you're going to get criticism in order for you to rise to the occasion and ascend your proverbial throne to fame. So let's figure out how you can do that. Let's pull some detail cards here. What do you need to do to trust yourself? To build up your ego? What do you need to do? So we have the 5 of Cups. So this is a very strong indication that you have to accept you can't have it all. You have to accept that some things are difficult. The second card is the Ace of Cups reversed. So depending on what sort of path of fame you choose, your option to fall in love is going to be limited. I'll talk about that in a second. And then the third card is the Emperor, being in control of your life. Okay, so you're going to face the same dilemma that a lot of celebrities and influencers face. And this is when they become successful when they are very focused on their ego because it's necessary in order to really withstand the criticism, what they find is that their relationships with other people dramatically change. Um, it's really hard to build really positive relationships and to fall in love, partly because their partners either don't understand that world or suddenly they're being really stressed out. I recently heard that Taylor Swift's boyfriend, Travis Kelce, who I believe is actually a pretty famous footballer in his own right, when people found out on the exact day that he was dating Taylor Swift, apparently he had to move because people started stalking him. It was a kind of fame he had never experienced before as an athlete. And that's something I think you're going to find with your relationships. If you choose to be famous, depending upon the project you pursue, it could affect your relationships in a pretty powerful way, and that's very, very scary. There is this one vlog that I watch. I'm not going to name it because the snarkers are very, very crazy, but it's not like a family or children vlog. But basically, one day I looked up this vlog online, like on Google, like I was watching it, but I wanted to find out more about those people. I found something called a snark community, and these internet gossips were making up the craziest lies about the people on this vlog, assuming everybody was in like this polygamous relationship, that they were abusing each other, all these weird things. And that's something I think you need to understand about being famous is that you're not just the target, you're the people you're in a relationship with are also going to be a target. And so your social circle, your intimate social circle is going to be smaller, and who you can actually have a close relationship with is going to be limited. I think you can find people, but it's going to require a lot of vetting. Taylor Swift apparently has had a lot of trouble with this. Apparently, Travis Kelce isn't as bothered by it as other boyfriends that she has had in the past. But yeah, like it's really hard for some celebrities or influencers to find somebody who actually want to be with them. And that is going to be something you encounter. I think that's going to be the bottleneck to your fame. You're going to start pursuing something. You're going to be modestly successful. And then people are going to attack your loved ones. They're going to be jealous. And that's going to make you think, do I really want this? And so you need to be very, very careful and upfront and transparent with your loved ones. You need to protect their privacy if possible. If you are thinking of being a family vlogger, I would probably not choose that. I think it would affect you on a deeper level than most people. But yeah, you may want to really guard your private social life because they're going to be targets. And that is what's going to cause you to blow up any potential fame that you have. Now, if you want to be famous, but you want to have a private social life, you could choose a project that you know you can become famous with and then leave the spotlight. That's perfectly fine. You can do that. But pile four, that is what I have for you today. Yes, you can be famous. For you, it is a spotlight you have to choose to step into. You can choose multiple things. Just pick a hobby or interest or character trait that you want to develop and then work towards that. And then work as much on it as you feel comfortable with. And then when you hit that bottleneck where you're finding it affecting your relationships, that is when you need to ask yourself if you should step away. That's going to be a moment in your life you're going to have. You're going to have to accept that. But I think it's going to depend on what you do. One word of advice that I would have for you is if you know ahead of time that you do want to be famous, you want to step into the spotlight, and you really research the project you're going to pursue, you could consider how you're going to really filter out social relationships so that way you can have that social relationship and have that fame. A lot of celebrities, for example, often only date other celebrities just because they understand that life. They already have public profiles, so they're kind of insulated from some of the abuse that toxic fans would give them. That's something to consider, so maybe pick someone in your field. But that is what I have for you today, pile 4. I hope this was helpful. I am sending you many blessings. If you would like to book a private tarot reading with me, the link is in the description, as well as links to all of the tarot and oracle decks that I used today. But really, pile 4, I am sending you the best energy. Just trust your intuition, find the thing that you're motivated by the most, and I believe you can be famous in that industry. You just have to apply yourself, and I think you can. You just need to elevate your ego a little bit and then tend to your social relationships in private. So that is all I have for you today. Be sure to like and subscribe for more. I can't wait to see you again.